tell you that what he says is wrong. That situation just simply cannot arise, because you do not have that degree of intelligence, because intelligence works on knowledge. Intelligence helps you to fulfill that knowledge, to amplify, to implement that knowledge. But if you do not have the knowledge at all, then how can you act at all? So the answer to the question is that you would then not have the knowledge and intelligence not to accept his rulings, because you would not know on what basis his rulings are not correct. I would suggest, to help the questioner, that if there are rulings of Maraja which we do not understand, he uses the word accept, I substitute the word accept with the word understand, we must write to him and say, look, I do not understand this for such and such and such a reason, because I think this, that and the other, but this is your ruling. Can you please explain me? Can you elucidate to me how is it that I am wrong, because I am your marja and I must follow what you say, but I would like to understand what I am doing and I would like you to explain to me. And I am sure that the marja would be forthcoming, because they always have reasons. They always have to provide reasons, logic and argument for every fatwa that they issue. Does black magic actually exist? Well, it looks like it does. Or is it a creation of human imagination? Well, the only reason why I say that it looks like black magic does exist is that the surah says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاثِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, and then وَمِنْ شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. And spare me, relieve me from those knots which are tied and untied. Well, the inference I draw from those knots, the tying of those knots, is magic. It's attempt to cause you harm. I do not believe that black magic works. I do not believe white magic works either. And if white magic doesn't work, what chance does black magic have? But over the years, it has been said that some people do play on magic. Now, the questioner is being very intelligent about it, because he says, or is it creation of human imagination? There can be in effect play on imagination, but that illicit play on imagination is by itself a piece of magic, and that is black magic. Now, I say this again by Quran, because that is how we get knowledge. My first point was on Quran, Surah Falaq. This point is also on Quran. Fir'aun, faced by Nabi Musa alayhi salam, whom did he call? He called his magicians. And it's the magicians who came in the court centuries ago. And they said, we will have our snakes, and we will produce our snakes. Now, you can say it was a figment of imagination, but the position was that what appeared to be snakes were created. They were fake, but they were created in the form of snakes there. And that is what black magic is intended to achieve, to give you an impression. You may like to call it imagination, but the effect of that imagination is created by that black magic, that magic which turns what is just a piece of rope into a snake, and you feel that there is a snake. So to that extent it is there, and we have been taught how to protect ourselves from it. And this is why I go to the next question: Does Islam offer a cure against black magic, if at all if at all it exists? Yes. Oh, the third one is fantastic. Kindly give some guidance on life after death. Oh no, it's not tick for me. No, that's not tick for me. I don't have to deal with it. My Lord, life after death is not a matter that can be dealt with in a question and answer series. It's a series by itself, and I'm doing that series at the moment in England at a cemetery. So it's a vast subject. Now, the cure which is the important thing, does it offer a cure against black magic, if at all it exists? Yes, indeed, it does offer cure. And the greatest cure is this Surah Falaq that I just set out to recite. We must recite it every day, 3 times in the morning, because it says, "Oh Allah, spare me all this. Qul a'udhu bi rabbi al-falaq." And I seek your refuge, it says, from the evil that is created in this world. Min sharri ma khalaq. All the evil that is created in this world. The evil that comes out at night. The nocturnal spirits that Shakespeare talks about. Apparently they were so rife even in those days of Shakespeare. So those nocturnal spirits, and particularly Macbeth, all those, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sums it all up saying, "Min sharri ma khalaq wa min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab." Well, so that surah, coupled with Surah Nas, those two are fantastic in protecting yourselves from black magic and from any kind of harm, including hasad, including evil eye, including jealousy. The solution is to recite 3 times, actually, all the 4 quls. Falaq, Nas, Falaq, Ikhlas, Nas, and right, thank you very much. Falaq. Kafirun is what I meant first. Surah Kafirun and in Ikhlas, Falaq and Nas, the 4 quls. But even if for any reason the other 2 cannot, Falaq and Nas are known to be the surahs that protect us from those black magic, and that is a teaching also that comes from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. The last question I have here with me is, are we allowed to pray Jamaat namaz with Sunnis? Example, Jummah namaz. How does that? All right. Are we allowed to pray Jamaat namaz with Sunnis? Example, Jummah namaz. If yes, how do we pray it? Do we follow their ways of praying? Well, let's deal with the first part of it. Then, do we pray? How do we pray it? Well, my understanding of the matter is that to recite Salatul Jama'ah, is it Jama'ah or Jum'ah? Jama'ah, yes. To recite Namaz Jama'ah, there must be an Imam who is Adil. Sorry, it is Jummah, not Jama'ah. Well, I hope it's the questioner who is putting me right, because I've got Jama'ah here, J-A-M-A-T, but apparently it's supposed to be Jummah. Are we allowed to pray Jummah namaz with Sunnis? Example, Jummah namaz. If yes, how do we pray? Does it follow? Well, my understanding of the matter is that Salatul Jum'ah must be recited behind an alim, and I think all the present maraji' insist that he must be an alim who is adil. Now, the first question I pose is that if the imam is not adil in the sense that he does not have proper faith, then how can you pray behind him? Then he is not adil. Now, proper faith means what? It does not only mean La ilaha illallah. To us, proper faith means he must also say Muhammadur Rasulullah, as one hopes he does, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he also believes in the 12 Imams alayhimus salam. That constitutes proper faith. And if that is lacking, then how do you recite Salatul Jum'ah behind it? I am told that there are maraja' who say that yes, in certain circumstances you can. Well, then if you follow those maraja', then you can only recite Salatul Jum'ah behind a non-Shiite alim within the circumstances he allows. For example, I am told by certain mu'mineen whom I meet in Makkah and Medina, that the maraji' therefore say that if you are in Medina and there is namaz Jum'ah at the time when you are there, then you must join. Well, that's a different situation altogether, which does not mean that you do not have to recite the Dhuhr namaz at all. But my understanding of the matter, short of those spatial fatwas, of spatial maraja who have issued those fatwas on the circumstances which they talk about, short of that, as a general rule, one cannot do so because the Imam is not adil. How do we pray it? Again, that is a problem because their method their method is different from ours. I remember some years back speaking to a Hujjatul Islam who I knew was praying Jummah prayers in Dar es Salaam in a Sunni mosque. So I asked him whether that was legitimate, and his answer was that no, I happen to have certain offices, and by virtue of those offices I need to be present, but I pray Dhuhr when I go home. So that fortified me in my belief that what I'm trying to put across is perhaps the correct answer. If a person speaks bad and wrong things about another person behind his back, according to Sharia, this is wrong, right? But what about a third person? If a person speaks bad, wrong things about another person, okay. But what about a third person who blindly believes such a liar? Right? So a person speaks about another person, but the person who hears him, who listens to what is said, believes that lie and cuts off contact or starts behaving badly with the person spoken bad about. Well, what should you teach such a person, or what improvement should such a person bring about in his behavior? Well, to start with, he's a sinner. Because ghiba is not confined to the person who makes ghiba. The one who listens to the ghiba is equally guilty. It is not only the thief who is guilty, the receiver of stolen goods is equally guilty. Because there would be no thieves without receivers. There would be no people making ghiba if everybody said, look, sorry, I'm not listening to ghiba. So the first advice one gives them is, keep away. Do not listen to bad things spoken about other people in their absence. Because not only is the speaker committing a sin, you, by listening to it, are committing a sin also. But then accepting what is said, particularly if it is a lie, is even a greater sin. Because then you are making tuhma by accepting what is said and acting on it. You are making a false accusation by your behavior, by your action. You are falsely accusing that innocent person of that wrong, which he has not done. You may not have uttered those words, but by your conduct, that is what you are doing. You are imputing that wrong to that person, and for that tahma there is sin. There is ma'asiyah, there is sin for that also. The best therefore is to immediately discourage that person, saying, look, I don't want to hear any false things said or any true things but bad things said about any other person, because I'm not interested in listening to riba. Do I deal with that? I deal with that, do I? Well, the question which I thought was rather too broad, but it's couched in these words: was Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam married? Now, I understand that question to mean Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam, the son of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, was he married? Well, I think history is unanimous on the fact that by the time he came to Karbala, he was not married at all. Divergence appears only on what happened in the last days, his last days in Karbala, and whether an aqd took place and he was married to a daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam or not. There is a minority view that holds the view that he was married. A number of Maraji' today hold the view that he was not married, that such a marriage did not take place at all. But I cannot totally overlook the fact that there are those maraja who say that such a marriage did take place. And if it did take place, Ashura was not the time to indulge in marriages, but it took place because there was a wasiyah of Imam Hassan alayhi salam that such a marriage should take place, and no occasion had arisen. It had not been possible to carry out that wasiyah. When that wasiyah was brought to light in Karbala, Imam Hussein alayhi salam decided that that wasiyah should be implemented before Qasim died, and their wedding took place entirely, the aqd rather, there was hardly a wedding, the aqd was recited entirely to fulfill that wasiyah, so that a religious obligation is fulfilled. And it is only in that context that that marriage took place. But that is how certain historians have put the view. There is clearly a divergence on that issue. Is the Quran in a chronological order? Well, it doesn't appear on the face of it to be in chronological order, because the first ayah that we are told that was revealed was Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. That was the first ayah that was brought to the Holy Prophet. Recite Iqra bismi rabbika, in the name of your Lord who has created you. Well, Iqra is in the last part of Quran, in the 30th part, not the first. We know the last ayah that was revealed was Al-Yawm Akmaltu Lakum Dinukum Wa Atmamtu Alaykum Ni'mati. That is in chapter 5 verse 3, chapter 3 verse 5, Al Imran. So right in the beginning of the but I do not see that has any bearing or any significance, because ayats of Quran are ayats of Quran which carry equal reverence whenever they may have been revealed and howsoever they may appear in that holy book. Is there any more question? See? Finish. I am told that another question has just come in. Otherwise, I have finished with the questions that have been put before me. The last question is, at many places it is said in Quran that they will be sent to a garden beneath which rivers flow in paradise. Are there any more signs? Yes. Yes, he is talking of Tahtiha al-Anhar. Maybe you can... yes, there are other signs of Jannah, plenty of signs of Jannah. Again, Surah Waqi'ah sets out a number of signs of what will be in Jannah. There are different kinds of Jannah, and the Jannah that normally we talk, Surah Yasin, for example, talks of fruits, the various fruits that are in Jannah, and how they will be available, la maqtu'atin wa la mamnu'a. They will be available at all times, not only during certain seasons. They will be available at all times, and you will not be forbidden from eating them, as there are fruits that we are forbidden to eat in this world. Indeed, Adam was forbidden to eat certain fruit immediately after he was created. He wouldn't be now in Jannah, because in Jannah wala mamnu'a, there is no prohibition at all. Well, that's one sign. Hurs in Jannah. Quran mentions very widely that there will be huris in Jannah, to whom good people will be married. Yasin says, hum wa azwajuhum fi dhilalin ala al-araiki muttaqiyun. They and their wives, and wives in heaven will be the huris. Our present wives in the world can also be our wives in heaven. But there again, there will be drinks of many kinds, drinks that have no effect alcoholic drinks today give us headaches. Surah Waqiah says the drinks that will be available in heaven will not give you any such headaches. So there are plenty of signs of the shall I call goodies of heaven. Is azadari more important than namaz? No. Azadari is based on namaz. But for namaz, there would be no azadari. Azadari is carried out to protect namaz, because the azadari is based on that martyrdom, the basis of which was namaz. Yesterday, people, instead of reciting Jummah namaz and reciting Maghrib namaz, had taken part in azadari. Well, there is utterly no doubt. There are no two views about this. There is no doubt that namaz takes priority over azah, because there would be no azah without namaz. Well, we don't need proof of this. The fact that Imam Hussein alayhi salam stops the battle at Dhuhr time and does not say, look, I'll recite Dhuhr after the arrows are subsided, and has two of his eminent companions giving their lives, Sa'id and Zuhair bin Qayn, is in itself proof that azadari is subservient to namaz. Azadari is made. That mourning is made is because namaz was not being protected by Yazid. He wanted to demolish namaz altogether. His father had no regard for it. He had no regard for it at all. Is zanjir matam haram? This is not my subject. Is zanjir matam haram? If people do it in India when it is banned in Iran, my present view is, first, never to get nude in public. Oh my Lord, one can't get nude in public. That it's haram to get nude anyway, even if it is not in public. Even if one person can see you nude, that puts you into sin. There is no question about that. That of course is beyond argument. One just can't be nude in public. It is haram. But of course, the word nude, I expect, means the private parts which religion requires should be forbidden, where women can see our naked body. Well, naked body, of course, should not be seen by anybody, let alone women. But naked in that context. The substance of the question, I think, is zanjir matam haram? And do people in India, should they be indulging in it if it is banned in Iran? Well, on zanjir, again, I think it must depend upon what marja you follow. There are maraja who say that zanjir matam is haram altogether. Yes, he's talking of zanjir only. Zanjir matam only, not matam in general. Yes, there are maraja who say that zanjir matam is haram, and you must just not use a zanjir. What they say is you must not shed blood, or use, even if you do not shed blood, use blades that can shed blood, and say that sort of azah is haram. And there are known maraja who say that, and they say it even today. So if you follow a marja in Iran who says that even if you live in India, who says that zanjir is haram, then you cannot, because you are following that marja. If, however, you follow a marja who says that zanjir matam is halal, but with certain restrictions, and that is the truth of the matter. Those who say that it is halal say that it is halal so long as, for example, your physical condition is such that your doctor does not prohibit you from doing it. For example, you are not a heart patient. You are not a patient who the mere act can cause you physical harm. If the matam does not produce any such effect, then the maraja accept it. Another restriction being put is the political times in which we live. If zanjir matam can create political repercussions, then those maraja forbid it. But I think at the end of the day, whether you do zanjir matam or not does not depend whether you live in Iran or whether you live in India. It depends upon the marja whom you follow. And if that marja says no, then you don't. Or you can use ihtiyat, you can use caution. You say, there are those marja who allow, there are those maraja who don't. My marja allows, but I will use ihtiyat and I will not use zanjir. I will do matam with hands, and Allah will give me the reward. Well, that is one compromise which perhaps solves the question. As I announced just before I answered this question, I have answered, I hope, all the questions, rather attempted to answer all the questions that have been put before me. If there is any supplementary question, in other words, if you disagree with anything you want that I have said, and you want to query me further on it, or you want to express your view, please do so now. Yes. I haven't heard you at all.
So you're saying about Jamaat Namaz in the Sunni Mosque.
Jamaat Namaz.
How do we pray Jamaat Namaz in Sunni Mosque?
Well, the question is, how do we pray Jamaat Namaz in Sunni Mosque? My answer is the same. If the Imam is not adil, you cannot pray behind him. But there are certain maraja who allow you to recite Jamaat Namaz in certain circumstances. Like, for example, the example I gave you of the marja who allows you to recite Salatul Jama'ah when you are in Masjid al-Nabawi and Salat is being recited. Then he says, right, you can join in for the sake of unity of the Ummah, and you recite the namaz, and that is fine. Well, if your marja allows it, then he allows it. There are those who say, yes, for the sake of unity, pray behind that Sunni Imam, but then you must repeat privately. The first category of Maharaji say, well, you have said your prayers and that's it, you don't have to say them again. The second says, no, you've got to recite it again. The third says, no, you can't recite. It's not salah at all, because you cannot recite. That salah is not jaiz, is not valid. As jama'ah, if it is recited behind an alim who is not adil, or is recited in a way that is not valid. You see, if you have a salah in which the second surah after the first surah, well, the third category of Maharaja say that salah is not valid at all. So you have not recited. So he expects you to recite your salah, not reciting it again, because the first one is doubtful because he's not adil, the Imam is not adil, but because he says that is not salah at all. It is not valid. It's not valid namaz at all. So it must really depend upon what marja you are following. Yes.
There is a firqa known as Gulabis who just believe in seeking help from the 12th Imam himself and not from other Imam, and they are conducting classes in this masjid also. But they are not coming out in the front to ask, like to argue on this, and they are not having discussions and all that.
I don't...
And would it be wrong to conduct such classes and all that in the masjid itself? And leading people astray about all these things. I've given the question and my question has not come up to you. And I don't know. People are not, they are not taking the question. I have to noticing about
No. The basis on which this session is conducted is that priority is given to those questions which relate to matters on which I have spoken, which I think you will agree is fair. If I have in my majalises spoken about things which have remained unclear, it is my primary duty to make myself available to clarify those things which either I have kept unclarified or about which other questions arise. Now, you will agree that justice and common sense demands that those questions must be given priority. And that is why I am here. I'm here to answer for my sins. I'm not here for any other reason, primarily. So, give me a chance to do that first. Now, in the first year I tried to do that on my own, but it became difficult because a question I would raise the question, it would not be on my subject at all. So I decided that these questions had better be filtered for that reason. And those inviting me to speak nominated two people who would filter those questions to assist me. Then I deal with those questions on which I have spoken. Those that I have not spoken on take second priority. But you see, I have answered your question. I do not see why you raise it, because this question was put to me. It's not fair to say that it was not put to me.
I'm saying it was not put to you. I'm saying I want to comment on such people conducting classes and they are taking the community away from certain things.
No, the question that I was asked, was, is it or preferable?
No. And the other thing that
Or preferable?
Wouldn't it be wrong? Like they are taking the community away from
Well, I will not sit in judgment, and I don't think you should sit in judgment either, because this is a dangerous area to tread. We do not want to get into ma'asiyah. We do not know what they do. I don't know who you are talking about. We don't know what they teach or what they do not teach. I think rather than dealing with personalities, with the risk of riba, with the risk of tahma, rather than deal with personalities, it is better to deal with principles. Then we are safe. As far as I know, and I do not claim to be an alim of any nature, but to the best of my knowledge, doing the best that I can, I would say that you can of course invoke the 12th Imam alayhi salam. It is our duty to invoke the 12th Imam alayhi salam. And to the extent that there is anybody who conducts classes and says, recite the du'as by which you invoke the 12th Imam alayhi salam, I say they are perfectly right. And we must invoke the 12th Imam alayhi salam. This is why he is here. I recite those du'as myself, and I cannot possibly condemn anybody who recites those du'as or teaches them or encourages people to recite those du'as. Now, whether they say that you cannot invoke any other imam at all, I do not know. And I'm not prepared to condemn somebody about whom I don't know. And I'm not prepared, as I'm sure you will appreciate, to act on hearsay evidence. What I am prepared to do, and have already done, is to talk on principle. And the principle, as far as I know, is acting on the hadith of the 12th Imam, Ajjalallahu Farajahu himself. He says that to the extent that you invoke other Ma'asumin alayhimus salam, you invoke them not because you can ask from them directly, but because ultimately they become interceders. And to that extent, that can be done. How should a student conduct himself? Oh my Lord, that's too broad. Or behave. That is a question that As-Sadiq alayhi salam, I didn't have the chance to say this, asked Ma'mun. I think I made a mistake. May Allah forgive me. Although it doesn't quite matter. It was Al-Kadhim alayhi salam who asked Harun. He was making tawaf, and as he was making tawaf, Harun saw that here is an Arab who is making tawaf in such a saintly way, and people make room for him. They were not making room for Harun, but they were for Al-Kadhim alayhi salam, and he was doing this in greatest humility. And then he came to Maqam Ibrahim and recited his 2 rakat namaz of tawaf. Harun had done that. Harun asked somebody, who is this man? He said, I don't know him. Only afraid even to say that this is Al-Kadhim alayhi salam. You can see the situation, the political situation at that time. So Harun says to his companion, I want to go to him. So he goes to Al-Kadhim alayhi salam and says, I have seen you and I want to ask you certain questions. And this is what Al-Kadhim alayhi salam asks. When I first saw the question, I thought it was so wide that I couldn't deal with it at all. Then just occurred to me, Allah's grace is great. This hadith occurred to me, which I wanted to speak on in my sittings, but time did not permit. reminded me of that question. And Al-Qadim alayhi salam asks him that question. He says, do you want to ask that question as a student, or do you want just to raise a matter for the sake of raising it? So that is the first lesson. And there are those who want to raise these questions not in order genuinely to learn, but to create mischief, to ridicule the question, to ridicule the speaker, or to ridicule a saintly person like Al-Qadim alayhi salam. Harun got very embarrassed and said, no, I'm asking this question as a person who wants to learn. The Imam alayhi salam says, firstly then, sit as a student. And it is only when you sit as a student that you can learn. So the first conduct taught by the Imam alayhi salam on how to behave is to sit properly, to sit in a way that you are a student to imbibe knowledge, not one who is out only to criticize or to create mischief. Well, so that is the first lesson. And then you must ask your question genuinely with intent to learn. When you write your question to the mujtahid, not so much to question his capacity, then don't regard him as a learned man, but in order to learn. Those two, I would say, are the prerequisites. First, there must be the humility, and that is what is involved in sit as a student, the humility of a student, and secondly, genuine intention to learn. 10th Muharram Ashura Day, is it Roza or Faqa? It is Faqa. Roza is haram on the day of Ashura, according to As-Sadiq alayhi salam. The recommendation is Al-Faqa, and we must break the Faqa at Asr time, even if it is just one morsel of bread or one sip of water. One sip of water is enough, but that Roza must be broken at that time. Please explain how Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib receives assurance from Lions family that they don't harm Ahlul Bayt, when to my understanding the Imams are immune to any person or any beasts. Yes, but this is, how does Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib? Oh, I see. How Imam... Yes, received assurance from the Lions family that they don't harm Ahlul Bayt, when to my understanding the Imams are immune to any harm from any beasts. Yes, I did say that 3 sets of people will not be harmed. Them, their offsprings, whether Imams or not, or any Shia, will not receive any harm from the Imams, from the Lions, from the Lions. Well, that is the state, as we saw, of beasts. Beasts understood the situation of the Imams alayhimus salam, and understood at what level, to what extent those Imams alayhimus salam were entitled to respect. It was not a question of us extending or anybody extending respect. It was a question of being entitled to that respect. As Jamia says, this is haqq. This is haqq for them. And says, wal haqqu ma'akum wa fikum wa minkum wa ilaykum. That haqq, that right is with you. And it only emanates from you. You are the only people entitled to that haqq. But look at the way in which they treated the Imam alayhi salam in Karbala. In Karbala, also a lion came to the Imam alayhi salam to help the Imam alayhi salam. Indeed, a lion came when the Imam alayhi salam was still alive, and said, Yabna Rasulillah, I have come only because I heard your istighatha. You said, Hal min nasirin yansuruna. I am here and I can gather my fellow lions at no time at all, and we can attack these enemies and finish them all. The Imam alayhi salam says, no, This is not the time to attack them in this way. This is not the time to seek your help. It will not be fair that humans are attacked by non-humans. We will fight them ourselves, and Allah will give you jaza for this. But there was a time indeed, there was a time indeed when a lion came out after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Not only did they martyr Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they ran horses on his body. Fizza comes and gives information to Bibi Zainab alayhi salam, saying, "Oh daughter of the Prophet, what news have I heard?" She says, "What have you heard, Fizza?" Fizza says, "I have heard that Umar ibn Sa'd has asked 40 horsemen to be on one side and 40 horsemen on the other, and these horses should run over bodies of the martyrs." And at that particular time, the first person who dared come forward was Shimr La'natullah alayh, and said, "Oh Umar ibn Sa'd, Abbas, Abdullah, Ja'far and Uthman are from my Qabila. If horses will run on their bodies, we will be ashamed in the Qabila." Umar ibn Sa'd says, "Let those bodies be removed." Then people from the Qabila of Shahzada Ali Akbar come and say, "His mother was from our tribe. If horses will run on his body, we will be disgraced." So the body of Shahzada Ali Akbar has been removed. People from the army of Hur came and said, "Hur at one time was our leader. We cannot see horses being run on his body." The body of Hur was removed. And that way, O Zainab, all bodies have been removed. Not one person has come forward and said, "Hussein was the grandson of my Prophet. Hussein was indeed the son of Fatima to Zahra salamullahi alayha." And now horses will run over the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. 40 horses from one side, 40 horses from the other. They started running from both sides, and the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was trampled upon. You might think that was enough. You might think that was enough, but it wasn't. Then people came and started robbing from the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Somebody came and took the turban away. Somebody came and removed the ring. And then they wanted to go to the extent of doing indecencies with the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, removing his clothes, which are required to be on a human body. And a lion came out then. A lion came roaring. A lion sent those beasts away. That was a beast who came out to eat those lesser beasts who were trying to do mischief. He sat near the body and protected the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We say, "Oh Allah, this lion of a beast knows these credentials and the respect of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Your curse on those who wanted to mistreat the body of the Imam alayhi salam. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. رحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة.